Hi, I'm Dr. Ellen Hendrickson, and this is episode 13 of the Savvy Psychologist. I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. We'll use the best of psychology to help you be happy, healthy, and most importantly, yourself. We are ninjas at avoiding potential conflict. We email a coworker when we should just walk down the hall. We break off a relationship with a text. We feel relieved when voicemail picks up and we don't have to talk to an actual person. We generally do everything short of pointing out a shiny object and making a break for it. But a touchy subject doesn't have to equal conflict. The idea for this week's podcast comes from Andrea G., a listener and a nurse who asked on the Savvy Psychologist Facebook page how to address tough issues with patients like a bad diagnosis or DNR or do not resuscitate. So here are 13 tips for approaching tough conversations. In addition, you can go to quickanddirtytips.com/savvy-psychologist for 4 bonus scripts of what to say in sensitive situations. Tip number 1. Start with the same goal. This is the fundamental rule. We've talked about unified detachment on the podcast before, and it's never more important than in a tough conversation. Unified detachment means reframing the conflict, so rather than you versus your opponent, it's the two of you against the problem. So before you approach the person you need to talk with, think of a goal you can both get behind so the conversation is win-win. For example, when talking to a bully's mom, say, "We both want to help Jimmy and Jackson get back on track." Not, "You need to call off your pit bull of a kid, lady." Then, if the conversation goes off course, this goal is your home base. Keep coming back to it. If Jimmy's mom gets defensive, remind her of the goal you both want. What's best for the kids. Tip number 2, take the Columbo approach. Being genuinely curious takes the opposition out of it. What do you think, or how do you see it, are the magic words and the ideal ending of your initial statement. For example, "It's my understanding that the 3 of us roommates should keep our groceries separate. What do you think?" The what-if version of the Columbo approach is also good. "Mom, I have a question for you. What if something happened to Dad? What would you want us to do to take care of you?" However, stop short of, "I have a stupid question," or "This is probably wrong, but..." Tip number 3, beware of being in it to win it. Tough conversations only work if you both win. We treat others badly to get them to treat us better, which makes no sense for anyone involved. So to avoid lingering resentments and dirty looks, you must give up your goal of crushing the competition. Any loudmouth can, quote, "win an argument." To be a true winner, you need to make everyone win. If you hear yourself saying slippery things like, "Technically, you never said exactly that," or plotting to secretly tape the person so you can prove you're right, both of you have already lost. Tip number 4, you set the tone. If you make it stone cold serious and awkward, it will be. If you open with anger or defensiveness, it will end up as a fight. But if you ask casually and with genuine openness, you'll have a real conversation. Tip number 5, open well. "We need to talk" never led anywhere productive. It usually means, "We need to talk about you and what's wrong with you." So open with something better. Suggestions include, "I need your help with something. Do you have a minute? Can I bounce an idea off of you? Hey, I have some news. I have a question for you. Hey, can I tell you something that I think will be helpful to us both?" Tip number 6, give your role the responsibility. Blame your job or position. "As your daughter, I get to ask you about your wishes regarding your estate." Or, "As a nurse, my job is to make sure we're all on the same page and prepared before we need it." I often say with a smile, "So, as your therapist, my job is to ask the hard questions." Tip number 7, beware the but. The word but negates whatever just came before it. That's why "no offense, but" always precedes an offensive statement. Watch out for buts in your own conversation. Consider replacing them with "and." There's a big difference between, "Yes, we only live once, but we need to save for retirement," and, "Yes, we only live once, and we need to save for retirement." The former is invalidating. The latter is supportive with a bonus improvement. Tip number 8, agree with their disagreements. This is a time-tested technique with little kids. "It's bedtime. I know you wish you could stay up. Yeah, it's more fun to stay up, isn't it? You wish you could stay up all night and never go to bed. With adults, of course, this can't be as paternalistic, but it's validation all the same. For example, you're right, getting stuff on Amazon is super convenient. I love not having to go to the store too. And I found that one-click button is really driving up our credit card bill. Tip number 9, defense. Getting defensive almost always kills a conversation. The canary in the coal mine is your emotional state. When you feel attacked, breathe slowly and then validate your conversation partner by, counterintuitively, agreeing with their attack. Then go back to your home base, that goal where you both win. So, for example, I'm so sorry if I'm coming off as labeling your child as a bully. I can see how that would be frustrating, and I'm not here to do that. I am here to figure out, with you, how we can team up to help the kids get along or take a breather from each other. Or, in another example, I would feel terrible if you left this conversation feeling attacked or pressured. What I'd like to do is figure out ways we can feel closer to each other and make our relationship work better for both of us. Tip number 10, apologize within reason. Smart apologies cost you nothing, and they work wonders to make you more effective. I'm sorry I was unclear before. What I mean is, or I'm sorry, I know this topic is tough to talk about, and I know we both want what's best for grandma. However, there are 2 caveats here. One, particularly for women, don't apologize for having needs or for existing. Don't say, I'm sorry to bring this up, it's so stupid, or I'm so sorry to bother you with this. 2, don't offer a fake apology. In a fake apology, I'm sorry is followed by the word you. I'm sorry you misunderstood. I'm sorry you feel that way. A real apology follows I'm sorry with the word I. I'm sorry I lost my temper when we talked about this before. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Tip number 11, just the facts. Facts are neither incendiary nor insulting. To a tween, for example, I notice the clean laundry is in a pile on your floor. And it's Friday, which is allowance day. Then let her make the connection. Hopefully, you won't need to say another word. My favorite example of this technique comes from a friend recently deployed in Afghanistan. He probably saved the life and the ego of a clueless reporter embedded with his unit by stating the fact, that's a really bright shirt. Tip number 12, go with your feelings. No one can argue with how you're feeling. Better yet, go with a soft feeling. Sadness, worry, shame, guilt, rejection, vulnerability, whatever's under the hard feeling of anger. For a partner, I'm sure you're not trying to do this, but not having sex very often is making me feel rejected. Or for a teen, can I get your help with something? I'm feeling worried about the new crowd you've been hanging around with recently. Tip number 13, pick a good moment. Don't try to talk when someone is distracted, exhausted, in a rush, stressed, or drunk. Good settings, in my opinion, include a long car ride, after watching or reading something related to the topic, or on a walk. Bottom line, it's a recipe. Start with unified detachment, that goal you can both get behind. Add a dash of facts, feelings, and a willingness to be naturally curious. Garnish it with a Columbo ending, and you'll have whipped up a masterful dialogue. Be aware, however, that this recipe is an acquired taste. Most of us have a lifetime of avoiding conflict behind us, and it can be a difficult habit to change. So start out with 1 or 2 of the approaches, and then build from there. Soon, you won't have to avoid conflict, because you'll be a ninja at having genuinely productive conversations. So remember to check out quickanddirtytips.com/savvy-psychologist for 4 bonus scripts for starting tough conversations. One is for Andrea, our listener who asked how to address DNR with patients. The others include how to open a conversation with a partner about spending more time together, a friend who owes you money, and a coworker who's excluding you from projects. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Ellen Hendrickson. That's all for this week. A transcript of the podcast and references for the studies I mention are always available on quickanddirtytips.com. A final note. Remember, the Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and does not substitute for psychiatric care or psychotherapy by a licensed professional. So as always, any patient names have been changed and details altered to protect privacy. Thanks for listening, and to see you next week for a happier, healthier mind.